Welcome, friends of the Middleport Heritage Society. Blain Albin here. I thought I'd publish a short podcast episode so that I could share some of the conversations I had yesterday at the Digitization and Preservation Workshop. When I say yesterday, I mean March 1st, 2025. The workshop was jointly hosted by the Brant Public Library and the Middleport Heritage Society. People were invited to bring any documents, photographs, or journals or old books that they would like to be converted to a digital format, and then they'd be archived in the Brant County Library's digital archives. Before I play the conversations, I'd like to point out that our annual general meeting is scheduled for Saturday, March 15th at 2 o'clock at the Onondaga Community Hall. So mark that on your calendars. There'll be more details about the event on our website, and I'll put a link in the show notes. Joyce will talk a little bit more about it in the recordings too, so make sure you listen to the whole thing. So that's about it, and here we go.
Nancy Martin. I grew up on the Martin farm, which my great-grandfather purchased in the 1860s, maybe, we're not sure. He first purchased a 17-acre property, not the next farm, but over. He had come as a farmer, a potato farmer from Ireland, 1840s. And we believe he purchased that property first. And it's the property where Mary Ann grew up, because they bought a lot off the farm. And then the Irelands bought a lot off it too. And then the other farm down next was Campbell Workman's, and then the Martin farm. And so I grew up there. And I went to SS number 3 from grade 1 to grade 8. And my mom was my teacher from, Grace Martin, was my teacher from grades 1 to 4.
This is Mulligan School, right?
That's correct.
Right.
Yes. She later taught at Middleport School. And I can remember they were desperate for a teacher in Middleport School. And I remember Bruce McBlain and somebody else from the school board in our dining room pleading with my mother to go to Middleport School. And she did.
Yeah.
So she taught Don Douglas and
Right.
all those kids. In fact, Don's got a photo. But so that's my connection. Now, I moved away when I was 17. I went to Teachers College in Hamilton, and I did my teaching career in Hamilton. But I've kept in touch with people here, particularly the Howdens, Bert and Gwen. Their daughter Judy, who sadly died in 1977, was a very close friend. I was a bridesmaid for her. Ron Howden and I called each other brother and sister. We were very, very close, and I miss him to this day. So that's my connection. So today I brought a photo from SS number 3, from Mulligan School, 1950. Mom's the teacher, and I'm in the front row holding the slate. I'm the one with no front teeth. And I also brought a photo which I would say might be 2 years before that. Again, Mom's the teacher, and I brought that. I brought, going back to William Martin, I brought a piece of paper indicating that he paid some money for some property. We were not quite sure what. And then I brought a photo of a 4-H club in 1956 that my mother and Muriel Dunstan were the leaders. And I have 2 photos, just informal ones, of a group of girls from SS number 3, and another one, a group of boys.
So, excellent. I feel like I could ask a bunch more questions, but that's good. That's good for a little bit about what's going on today.
Sure thing. So my name's Gary Jeremy. I'm Director of Community Innovation for the County Brant Public Library, and also on the board for the Middleport Heritage Society. And so this is a joint effort today in terms of a scan and share day for the community. So we've encouraged people to bring out their materials and get them digitized for 2 different reasons. First being, most importantly, for the preservation. So if something were to ever happen to the original, at least there's a digital copy. I mean, it never completely replaces it, but it's at least something is there. And and you never know what's going to happen, right? So it's just preventative in terms of making sure your materials are preserved. And second is if people want, we add them to the digital historical collection, which allows for them to be shared online. And then that's a great thing because say you have someone looking from Saskatchewan who has relatives in the area and they moved away, and then they see someone and it's like, oh, well, that's my aunt. And then they're able to comment on the records on our website, and then it helps add pieces to the tapestry, so to speak. Just with regards to being able to put together that full picture of the local history. And if it wasn't out online, that person might never see that image and be able to provide more information. So it's a great method for sharing and great for just anyone to be able to access and learn more about the local history of the area. So the preservation and the exposure for the materials are the two main reasons. We've ran a few of these over the years, and it's always great just to see all the different materials people bring out. A lot of old photos, land deeds are often brought out as well. Journals, ledgers, letters. We've really scanned the whole gamut when it comes to documents, and again, I mean, it's like every piece is important. I mean, even if it's like a person's like a family history, I mean, that all ties into the bigger picture, right? And so that's really what a day like this is all about.
Yeah, I was just talking to Douglas's over here, and they brought some land deeds.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah, the original deed. And we were just talking about that because you never know what the next generation is going to value. They might find this box of stuff in the basement and think, well, that's useless, and throw it out. So if once they've got a scan here, at least that's preserved if that does happen, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and land deeds are definitely a gold mine for information in terms of getting those specific dates down. Like there's a couple old county maps. Like I know there's one, I think 1858, and then the 1875 Tremaine, which shows like the land plots, like in terms of the former Onondaga Township, and then the other townships in the that made up or now make up the county of Brant.
Right.
But it's kind of in terms of, so you have those two specific years where you can look at your plots, but in terms of the time in between when those two maps came out or after, it can be a little more difficult to piece together. Right. And it also, those maps don't tell you the dates in terms of when the person who's listed on that plot of land purchased that land either, but the land deeds do. So yeah, they're very valuable pieces of historical information.
And you've got some of the equipment here. You've got a couple of flatbed scanners, one pretty big one there, and a legal size.
Yep.
And is this a book scanner?
Yes, yeah, it's a book scanner. Yeah, so there's like two like kind of plastic like angled pieces, and so you can put them down and put your book inside it, and then open up your pages. We scan it at 600 DPI, so that's dots per inch, and that's the archival standard. So it's high quality. We save the files as TIFF files, so again, archival standard for your file format.
Great.
Okay,
Thanks
sounds
for
good.
talking to you.
Well, I can do some. I'm Noreen, and my maiden name was Dixon, and I lived in Middleport to about 6,
Yeah.
and then we moved to St. George, and Marion was there too or something, weren't you, when we moved up?
Yeah, pretty young. I'm Marion Shepherd. I'm Noreen's sister, so my maiden name was also Dixon. Our parents are not buried at Middleport Cemetery, but our grandparents on my mother's side.
And
My
great
mom
aunt
grew
and
up there.
Yeah,
And
Sarah and, well, what are they?
Sarah Knox, who took care of the church for many, many years, was our grandfather's sister. There were just the two of them. And our grandmother's parents are also buried at the cemetery, as well as our grandfather's parents in Middleport Cemetery. Yeah, so we have a lot of heritage there. But our parents are back at St. George. We do have a great aunt, though, that's also there on Dad's side, Dixon, Essie Dixon. Yeah.
So that's what we
That's
are.
why
That's your
we're
connection?
here.
Your
Yeah,
connection?
that's pretty
What
much
kind
our
of-
connection. Our grandparents ran the Middleport General Store.
Right.
Our great grandparents.
Yeah.
Yeah. For a few years, but I don't know what years.
No, I don't either, no.
When our-
See,
that's-
we were so young when we left.
That's
I
right.
went to Mulligan School,
Yeah.
which is no longer in existence, from Easter to June, just to fit me in what they call kindergarten or junior kindergarten nowadays. Yeah.
I remember being down at the river.
Yeah,
yes, don't you,
and
with
I
your
remember
brother, Dave.
Granddad's farm, we lived on it, my mother's father, because Mom was an only child. And where was it, Mary? In the corner of
I don't-
Mulligan Road
Yes,
and
close to the
Baptist
Baptist
Church
Church.
Road.
Okay.
The house is still there, I think.
Yeah.
It was a farm.
No, it's
gone.
gone.
Is it
Property's there, but it's different house,
Different
yeah.
house.
Okay.
And I remember my sister coming down a staircase at Christmas time, and she was sitting on it, spying probably. Mom had pictures of her sitting there or something. But yeah, and I remember at one point in time when there was just there's a brother between my sister and I. We lived down by the river somewhere on River Road or something. I would be renting something at that time. So, but I couldn't tell you where or anything. Yeah. Our mom lived to be 97.
Wow. Good for her.
Yeah, she could really tell you. Yeah, she with the Wilkinsons and the Howdens and all back that way. Yeah.
Does that,
I have a few photographs of the old ferry going across
Great.
with my grandfather and mom.
Crossing the river.
Yeah.
Crossing the river.
yeah.
It's the old ferry.
Oh, wow.
That's 1927, I thought she said in another picture. And
That's the car going across it.
Yeah.
There's two of those actually.
Yeah, make sure they get those pictures. That's a great picture.
There it is.
There it is, yeah.
That's my grandfather and mom.
And it's a
That's their car.
model, like a Model T,
Going
on the ferry,
Yeah.
crossing at Chiefswood.
Yeah.
I don't know how they got it across.
I don't know.
Well, yeah, at one point it was just pulled over by hand with there was a rope across. And they just pulled it by
Yeah, I
hand.
think it was. They were pulling. Yeah, that's what I thought.
And then they rigged up a gasoline engine to it at one time, and it's
Yeah, because I remember being down and looking at it even when it was probably the gasoline engine years later. Yeah.
what I would recommend is, now maybe the names are on there, are they? I can't
They're
quite
not,
read
but
that.
I know who they are.
What you need to do is make a note in that album, writing down who it is,
Yes.
because the next generation.
Oh, I know. Actually, I was looking at this with some of my grandchildren the other day, and they were interested in who was who.
Oh, there's all the Dunstan boys. They were my grandmother's brothers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that's one of them that owned a store in Onondaga. Which one? Where's Gordon?
Gordon.
Yeah, him.
Ah.
And then one of them went on to own Les Dunstan Archery here in town years ago, him. And then the other one was a barber, Tom Dunstan. And one moved to Florida and never come back.
Yeah.
Said, yeah.
I don't blame him.
And the other one, and the youngest one that's in that picture ended up in Stony Creek living for years and years. And Dad, at one time when he was younger, lived in the old Pauline Johnson house.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably rented, yeah.
Yep. You say your mom had a book of.
Oh, well, not really. It was a diary she kept.
Diary from 1936 to 1937,
Yeah.
and all the activities that went on in those 2 years during the Depression, really. And
at
she
my
was
house?
18, probably 16, 17,
Yeah.
and all the parties they'd have getting together from farm to farm in the winter, and going across the fields on horse and sleigh. They are great stories. Most of them are a lot of Baptist young people's gatherings and that sort of thing.
Thanks for talking. And I'll let you get settled and maybe get a snack or introduce yourselves first.
Okay, I'm Don Douglas,
And Lois B. Douglas.
and we're at 1377 Highway 54. Used to be RR2 Caledonia, but we brought some material up here today that's, I guess it's been around for 5 generations or whatever, bits and pieces, and some we could throw out, some we thought we might as well try to bring up here and see if it's going to be of any use to anybody else.
And you've brought some articles. You brought an old calendar from the Hamilton Hunt Club from 2008.
Yes.
You brought a list of electorals from a federal election, 1949. Yeah. And some pictures.
2 pictures from Middleport SS number 2 school that I went to all through my first 7 years of public school. And our teacher here was Grace Martin, and she lived back on Baptist Church Road. And her daughter Nancy, I think, is connected with this group here today. We had breakfast with her yesterday morning at Caledonia, and she said she'd see us here today, so I guess she's going to do some of this work. But
Good.
that was our
And this picture is from 1953.
1953. I think there's one there from 1952. I think the other one is.
Oh, and it looks like you got all the names on the back too.
Yes,
Very
names
smart.
are
Very
back on the
smart.
back.
And you got you got deeds. So this is the. I'm just going to describe this. This is the original deed to your farm, and the date is 1857,
Yep.
29th of May,
May of 57.
to William Downey, and then William Douglas bought it from Downey,
Yeah,
who
in
was
66. Yeah.
William Douglas that used to own my farm too, right?
Yes, he was part of the Willowbank
Willowbank.
farm, that family. Yeah, he was one of the 3 sons that came over from Scotland with his dad that we know of. I think there's more family than we know of, because I think there's names someplace in here that there's about 6 or 7 family came over, but there was 3 boys, and the one bought the farm where we live today. The one bought the farm immediately east of where Herb Douglas lives now. And it was Alan Douglas and his forefathers, and Johnny Douglas's forefather.
Right.
And then the 3rd brother bought the farm down the highway, almost to the county line. The old Lloyd Douglas, Lloyd. They had 2 lots. They had Lloyd and Herb. They had 2 lots side by side.
Mm-hmm.
So all about the same time, I imagine. I'm not too sure when they bought theirs. Well, our farm was William Douglas, and then William A. was my great-grandfather. So
Right.
William was my great-great-grandfather. So.
Yep.
But they had there was a lot of John Alexanders, and there were Johns, and they didn't get too.
There wasn't too many Donnies, was there?
No, they didn't have any Don, and there's not going to be too many after either.
This land sale from the Downies to William Douglas in 1866 was signed by a convoy,
Aha.
perhaps from Convoyville or
Yep.
Convoyville on
Yeah, back on Baptist
Baptist
Church.
Church Road.
Mm-hmm.
The
So-
girls have been told there's 3 boxes with red construction paper on them, and they're not to throw those out or we'll come back and get them.
Well, this is why you bring these things to this kind of thing. At least you got a digital scan. If somebody throws it out accidentally, at least you've got a copy of it. With that?
Hi, my name is Joyce Deagle Osinga. My parents were Ross and Jenny Deagle, and we lived just inside Brant County on Highway 54 near Caledonia. And I'm the secretary for the Middleport Heritage Society. And I brought a few different things today. One of them is a picture of actually when my husband was in school at the Green School in 1954 and 1955. His name is John Osinga, and there's a picture of a lot of his family members and a lot of the local kids from the area, the Quinns, the Chapmans, the Marshalls, Chapmans, and just some other information about the Deagle family, some history of the Deagles, and quite a few pictures of the Women's Institute, the Riverside Women's Institute, which my mother was president of, and we're featuring that at our AGM.
What's happening there?
Yes, our AGM is going to be at the Onondaga Community Hall on Saturday, March the 15th at 2 p.m. We'll have our general business meeting, and then following that, Karen Richardson, who is the curator for the Haldimand County Museum and was also involved with the Adelaide Hunter Hoodless home in St. George, will be giving a talk on Adelaide Hunter Hoodless. It's called Making an Impact on the World. And she was the one that Adelaide Hunter Hoodless was the one that got the Women's Institute started back in the early 1900s, I think it was. Members, Middleport Heritage Society members have free admission, and if you're a non-member, everybody is welcome, and it's $10 at the door. And that includes the speaker, refreshments, and the social afterwards. And and hopefully you'll, for $10, become a Middleport Heritage Society member and help support the society, which one of our mandates is to preserve and restore the Middleport Church. So we're fundraising for that as well. Yes, we have a public church service, our Easter service. It'll be, I think, the week after Easter, which is it's going to be on April the 27th at 2 p.m. at the church in Middleport. and everyone is more than welcome to that as well. We have 4 services a year, so the next one will be sometime in June or July, and that's our cemetery decoration service. People put flowers on graves, and we invite people to tell a story about their family that's buried there. And then in October, we have our Thanksgiving service, our Harvest Home service, and in December we'll have a Christmas service.
Great.
Yes.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Can you just introduce yourself again?
So my name's Pat Senft, and I'm here from Grimsby.
Okay.
And I have a cousin who lives in this area and is very involved with the Onondaga, the community hall there. And so she's got me involved in some of the events that they offer, and I found out about this one and thought I'd come.
Great. So did you bring some goodies,
Well,
did you? Or?
I did bring some, but I'm not certain because it's a little overwhelming what I brought. It's an old family history, my mother's side, and a cousin of mine years ago had researched back 9 generations. And we have a copy of it. I actually don't know who has the original. We have a copy, but it's quite extensive. And I have a brother who's been trying to work at, putting it onto, or digitizing it, and this. And so he's away right now. So I told him about the event. I said, "Is there anything you think maybe I could try and do?" So he said, "Well, take some of it up, see if there's any chance you might be able to, have some of it put onto it."
That's a great idea. Yeah. So there's a lot there.
There's a lot here. There's a lot here. And it actually, I marvel at the fact that, that someone spent the time they did going back, and there's copies of all sorts of stuff.
Oh yeah.
Pictures of there's I think there's land deeds in it, and there's all sorts of stuff, right? And so again, I'm very grateful that that she took the time to do all of this, and of course we would like to get it put into a format so that we could share it with other family members.
Yep.
Like my cousin from Onondaga.
And there's technology now. I don't know if they have it here or not, but they'll scan this, and it'll convert that print to like a text document, so that you can search it.
Oh, really?
To me, that's the difficult part about this kind of stuff. You have no idea what's in there unless you actually read it, right?
Right. Yeah.
Whereas if you can scan it into a text electronic document, you can search it and find, if you're looking for something in particular, you can search and it'll bring it right to you. I'm not sure if they have that technology
No, but I
available,
didn't even know that.
but you could maybe ask about that.
Yeah. And because as I say, this is the sort of thing that gets lost.
Yeah.
It just gets lost. And it's interesting because I have my brother's has a daughter and a son that are, in their 40s now, late 40s, but when they were teenagers, they got very interested in family history. And I actually bought them a computer program at the time, and they were pulling up pieces of information that they could and then putting it into this program. And my nephew, my niece, as she got a bit older, lost total interest, but my nephew was still quite interested, and we went several places to try and see what more information we could gather on the time. Of course, as they get into their 20s, they're not interested anymore. And then my brother, maybe about, 10, 15 years ago, got interested in looking at information again, right?
Yeah, I find being interested in family history, it kind of goes through stages of, depends on what stage of life you're in. When you're in your 20s and maybe you're raising a family, you have no time to think about that kind of thing, but maybe later on, when you have more time, it's good to kind of dig into that thing. But yeah, some people are interested in that, and some people just aren't for some reason. I don't know
And
why.
as we get older, we realize that it's going to be lost.
Right.
Unless somehow there is something written or something that's tangible that people have. And I look at, there's all sorts of things. Both my parents passed away back in the 90s. There's so much I think, oh, I wish I'd asked. I wish I had, because...
And I've discovered that myself too, and that's one thing. Part of this kind of thing is interviewing a lot of the local community members that are getting on and getting all their life story and their memories of way back when recorded.
Yeah.
So then when they aren't with us anymore, at least we have a record of those memories, because once they're gone, those memories are gone.
They're just gone, yeah.
So I think that's really important that we somehow sit down with these people and record, whether it be audio or a video or something. That becomes more and more valuable as the years go on.
It does.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's even simple things like recipes and things like this that you think, oh, I wish I'd asked my mom for that, or I wish I had that. And it is. And I had a friend of mine, her father, he passed away about maybe 6 years ago. In his mid-90s, but he had worked on building the Lancaster bomber.
Yeah.
He wasn't able to be in the forces. He was very, very short, and he weighed like 98 pounds, right? And I used to love visiting him when he was in a retirement home and then a long-term care home, because oh my goodness, he wanted to talk about it so much, right? And I used to take him up to the Blain Heritage Museum every so often, right? And he got so excited, and it just meant so much to him to be able to talk about it if somebody was interested in it, right? And when he turned 80, his family gave him as a surprise a flight on the Lancaster. And again, they videotaped when he was told and all this sort of stuff, and it was really neat. But when they were up in the air, everybody gathered at the museum for a party. So when they came back, when they landed, we all went out on the tarmac to greet him in this. But what I wasn't aware of, as I'm walking around and talking, there were some people there, were friends of his that had actually flown in the Lancaster. One was a bombardier, and you start to listen to them talking about their experiences, right? And again, I look at all of that and how that's all being lost, right? You can read it in a book, but it's so different. And recognizing how young they were when they were doing it, and things like that, right? They just have such, as I say, it's just sad that we're losing a lot of that.
And everybody has a story, right? Like whether it's building a Lancaster bomber or working on a farm or whatever, So
Exactly.
yeah. So that's part of what we're trying to do here. So, well, great. Thanks for coming out. What your connection is, and go for it.
My name is Kathy Van Grinsven. I'm a Kelly by maiden name. My dad was Robert William Kelly, and he was the son of Frederick Norman Kelly, who was the son of William Kelly. And William Kelly married Charlotte Victoria Myers, and she was a Deagle. So when you go back, we go back to Sarah Q, who was her mother, and Sarah had married David Deagle. So that's how I'm related to the Deagles and to the Middleport area, because a lot of the people who were born in Middleport were very close to it.
Right.
And then they moved to Brantford.
I see. And what kind of stuff did you bring today to get scanned?
There were a few death obituaries.
Yeah.
There were some pictures of the sons and daughters of William when they were before the 1945.
Right. Yeah. Great. And you were able to scan those and put the details in, and is that going to be on the website for other people to see? And
Yes.
That's great. Yeah. And you don't live around here?
No, I'm from Kamoka, Ontario.
Okay.
Close to London.
Yep. And you drove all the way here to
I
do
did.
some scanning? Good for you.
Scanning, and also to hopefully meet some people that would have some more information about the family.
Yeah. And so you were talking to Mary Ann, and she'd probably be a good resource, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Joyce, of course, is a Deagle too, so.
Yes.
Yeah, so you made some connections. This is good.
And I've met Kelvin Hagar, and he's talked a lot about the family, so that's interesting, because I was able to take his information and go a little farther.
Yes. Yeah. So you're kind of building a family tree. That's the.
I am, and I was trying to put together a book, if I could, about my family.
Yeah.
On both sides, my mom's and my dad's.
That's great. Have you always been interested in genealogy, or is this?
I have been.
Yeah. And what about, like, I guess with the genealogy comes local history and where they lived and what community they lived in and that
That's
kind of
right.
thing, learning about that, yeah. No, that's great.
Hi, Blaine. Thanks for bringing your recorder and documenting some of the events that happened today. So we had a great day, a good turnout, a wonderful presentation by Adam. He's an intern with the County Brant Library. And, lots of thanks to Gary Jeremy, the Director of Innovation, who brought all the equipment from the library, lots of great documents and things that were digitalized and shared with people. They'll probably be on the library collection and certainly with the Middleport Heritage Society. It's also wonderful to see so many neighbors and community members that brought a treasure trove of collections. Some of them, they said it was just the tip of the iceberg, so we'll have to do it again.